Hello and welcome back to the Double Swing, here with another event preview. It's myself, KingT, and of course, YouM3, who is here to, I guess you're here to pick teams, but win, not really a part of the equation. It's been going pretty horribly for you this season again. Care to comment, or we're just going to leave it at skill issue?
I don't know. I think I just suck. To be like, I always feel very confident in my picks, but the evidence would prove that I have no idea what I'm waffling about. So, yeah, evidence be damned about why a team should be good. The next event, I just pick them at the wrong times. Clearly,
And that's a big part of the skill, is picking at the right time. Although last event, no one got it right. Pretty much not. I mean, I technically made 2 points because I had complexity as an underdog, but that is like coincidentally my best pick I've ever made. Everything else was wrong for me. My favourites bombed, my other underdog bombed, all of Yumi's picks missed, everything the fans voted on missed. It's a horrible sea of red in the scoreboard.
I'd also just like to note that I have picked complexity as an underdog before, just not for this event, which is just it sours me. It really does. Like, I believed in you when no one else did, and now when I choose not to believe in you, now you show up. Fuck.
Yeah, well, they got you a point or two every now and then, but most of the time I'm seeing your Cole pick and then a bunch of red. Even when I've picked them in the past, they have missed. So that was the one event you had to have them. Made the grand final as an underdog. That was a completely unexpected run. But let's lock in, because potentially they could come up in this episode. They are at this event. That's the Blast Fall Finals 2023. Bloody hope I've got that right. I'm notorious for not really knowing which Blast event we're talking about, but pretty sure that's the one. It's going to be a weird one, because we looked through our picks while we were doing that today, going through the day. It's not a great field. I feel like there's a lot of turbulence, a lot of flux, I think I put it in our DMs. There's a lot of things happening that make you very unsure about teams. So I'll start with the first pick we went with, which was my first pick. I took the most obvious pick in the world. I took FaZe as a favourite. What is there to say other than they look like the best team and the only team who've already figured out what's going on? It seems strange to say that, right?
It's weird as well, because I'm pretty sure at Sydney when they won that event, the comment that I had most about that event is that they were actually one of the teams that weren't abusing the new mechanics in in CS2 as much as other teams. They didn't have like a tendency to blow open smokes when like a wall of smokes was down on nuke. They didn't feel like they were going for gimmick plays using that mechanic basically at all. And every other team felt like they had a niche strategy that worked with it. Complexity were one of those teams. Mals were one of those teams. And FaZe just kept it... honestly, I think they just kept it simple. And they've been playing a far more aggressive brand of FaZe Counter-Strike than we saw basically all year, now that we're in Counter-Strike 2.
Yeah, they're leaning on essentially chemistry and the fact that they can improvise better than everyone else, I think is a good way to put it. And plus, they do have this massive advantage of having the best player in CS2. I don't think that's much of a debate. A lot of people think the AWP has fallen off. I'm yet to form a real conclusion about that. I just think it's going to take a little more time for people to get used to how the AWP feels in CS2, and it probably will return to power eventually. But more importantly, if the AWPs have fallen off, the best rifler in the world is the best player in the world. That's Rops without a doubt. We haven't seen great things for anyone else, and he's just looked rampant. He was robbed of an MVP, I think, in the IM Sydney event. I thought Rain was a bit of an odd choice, considering not only was he not the best performer for the team, he wasn't the best performer in the playoffs consistently. So it seemed like an odd choice from HLTV, and I much preferred Rops having that MVP award. So 3 in a row where he's been the best player at their event. They've won the event, including Thunderpick, the online thing. All in all, resoundingly, he is the best player in CS2 and FaZe the best team. One little comparison, though, that I kind of felt like it kind of worked until I remembered there's these twist rumours.
Mm-hmm.
The start of CSGO, the NIP team, who looked absolutely dominant, 67-0. Was it 87-0? Man, it's been so long since that.
87-0, yeah.
Reference was relevant, really. 87-0. It kind of feels like the right space and the right moment for that to be recreated. It's not a prediction that it will happen. It's quite an anomaly to have that sort of thing actually manifest. But hey, everyone else isn't sure what they're doing, rebuilding their teams, panicking about the upcoming major. FaZe have just kept on winning and looked confident. So probably won't happen, given that the team will be split up in the coming weeks or months. But I thought it was a cool little thing to throw out there that, hey, if they do stick together, they keep playing LANs, they could go and match that sort of streak. That'd be a really cool thing to see at the start of CS2.
Yeah, it feels like we're going to get a little bit of a phase. No, I wouldn't say era. Just like a little phase period where we're sailing into the sun with this roster, but they could just win everything because every other roster at the top level right now is just not in a good place. Either instability, poor performance, whatever you want to label the teams as. I think bar Mao's maybe. Every other team feels like there's rumors about players getting traded, or you don't know whether or not they're going to play the best brand of Counter-Strike with CS2. So it does feel like the conditions are right. I do agree with you there. But it's just, I don't think an era like that, like what you're comparing the NIP one to, can happen just because of the limited time period we're expecting this FaZe roster to stay together with. So that's the unfortunate reality we live in.
Reality sucks, man. I wish we could just live in my fantastical dream where this can be again. But
I'd just like to say, on your MVP point about Rops, yes, I do agree he is the best player in CS2 right now, but he's also been the best player on FaZe for like this whole year. And I'm not like I'm not a Rops hater, but I'm not one of his many, fanboys. Sometimes when he's baiting too hard, like you need to sort of recognize that does happen. This is a year that I don't feel like that's happened at all. He's always had impact in these games. I think his ability to show that he's got more of an aggressive side to him as well in CS2 is exactly what I want out of him. I feel like playing slow continuously only works to an nth degree until it stops working, and you need to show another element of your game. And bro, Rops is like the best at finding the right time to do that right now.
100%. It's Rops time, it's Rops world, it's Rops game. Let's see if he can keep it up at this event. I'm hoping he does. Yumi, let's go to your favourite. Who have you taken to possibly challenge FaZe at this event?
Well, let's just contextualize here. You chose FaZe, fine. Then we've got Complexity, Na'Vi, and Vitality as our potential 3 other favorites. We're choosing it based off rankings here. And I didn't feel great about Complexity, even though they had a nice run at Sydney. I do feel like that was a one-off, and I don't think they'll be able to replicate that. I actually went with Vitality, even though they're a team that have recently made a transition with Magisk out and Mezii in, and I love the Mezii pickup a lot, and I don't think it's going to affect Vitality's play style too much, because Mezii, to me, has shown enough in different roles that I don't think it'll take long for him to adapt to what he needs to do. I think they'll keep it relatively simple as well as to what his responsibilities are in rounds, but he's in-game led, he's been a support player, he's been a star player, he's AWP'd for a period of time as well, and each time he's done that, he's never done an exceptional job at any of those spots. I'm never ever thinking that he's going to be like the top player in the circuit that he's competing in those roles, but he's always done a good enough job that I don't think I need to move him or replace him with another player instantly, and it always happens very quickly that he shows that kind of form.
Yeah, Mezii he's gone into all these different spots, different exact roles, but so often it is barely similar to what is typically asked of Magisk, so I don't think it's too much of a transition. He's also, I still think, underratedly so, mechanically brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
He shows it at moments, he has highlights that are mind-blowing, and you think, where is this all the time? It's because he's not trying to be the star a lot of the time, he's trying to do a dozen other things, support players, set other players up, literally lead players. I think he's perfect for this role. There's no ego, there's no clash, there's no demand from Mezii. He can just go in and play anchoring spots, play trading spots, help close, throw util, do whatever the hell you need him to do. So really interested to see how this actually plays out for them. I still think they have the issue of they haven't looked great in CS2.
Mm-hmm.
There's other pieces in the roster I have more questions about, like, can FaZe make better decisions, be a better player than he has shown? Because whilst we do all agree, I think on paper, mechanically, he's an upgrade to Dupree, what he hasn't shown is really a fit so far. He hasn't fit in and he hasn't blown our socks off with his rifling. So there's still a lot to be seen about FaZe. Obviously, ZywOo is a player who, if the AWP isn't feeling right, can come off and rifle, and you don't lose too much. I think that's a luxury Vitality have that a lot of other teams who are AWP reliant don't really have is they don't have access to a guy who, on the rifle, is pretty much still one of the best players in the world. He's never really had to in CSGO, but in CS2, I think he definitely could just transition to T-side, especially 50, 60, 70% of the time when he has the option to buy an AWP, just not do it and go and bang heads with the best of them. So Vitality is definitely the second best pick here. It just feels a little sketchier than what you'd hope for in a second best pick. It feels like in the scene right now, we don't have multiple truly elite teams. And the one team I think you would have wanted to pick here, which is a team like Mouse Sports, didn't make it. So I think good job in the pick you have taken. It's just, it's not FaZe. It's not the one you're feeling right now.
There's no evidence to support my encouragement of this team, or my backing of this team. If I could have picked FaZe, I probably would have, and they probably wouldn't have they probably would have done poorly at this event because that just seems to be my kind of luck. It is said as well, ZywOo has had to compete with a rival in the circuit in Simple for the exact same reasons. Simple, very dynamic AWP to rifler player, but he's not even on Na'Vi anymore. So for me, it was kind of a toss-up. I'd say it's like a 60-40 split. If Simple was still on Na'Vi, I'd maybe consider them. But I don't know that Wonderful is going to be able to adapt quickly enough to the vision that Alexi B and Bit have for this roster, or that he's just going to have enough output to sort of mitigate the loss of Simple for that roster. So, and I said complexity. I don't think they're going to have another great run at this event. I think it's the one-off, the one that justifies them maybe keeping that roster, and then we move on.
Yeah, fair enough. I like Na'Vi going out and getting Wonderful. I think it's the right move, especially if you're unsure what the future holds. You might as well pick up a guy who doesn't depreciate if you stick him on your bench after 6 months. He'll hold his value. You'll be able to get a good price for him afterwards. I've watched him play a lot throughout all the different rosters he's actually been a part of over the last couple of years. And the guy's really, really solid on a rifle. Just on that tangential note, where we have to talk about AWPers now, we have to talk about their ability to rifle. Mm-hmm. He's actually solid. So I think Wonderful's a good pickup. He's a smart pickup in that sense because there's a lot of AWPers who may be baited into taking from the Tier 2 scene, from the CIS, or other places, who really cannot actually transition to that sort of playstyle.
Also important for Na'Vi, he is Ukrainian and keeps at least 2 Ukrainian players on this roster. So, that's another massive positive for them. If there was any other, positive traits when you're looking at Wonderful as a player, that was just the cherry on top, I think. So.
Yeah, he's good branding, great hair, looks good on a poster. Is one way to think about it. But yeah, Na'Vi is a question mark team. I think the idea of this roster had a lot of us hooked. The idea of having Alexi B, signing talented riflers. Got some good driving going on outside, sorry about that. I think we need to see more by now, though. I think this is a good time for everyone to go, this system smashed together, players from different nationalities, different teams, different systems. Comms seem to be all over the place. Nothing's implemented correctly. This is a Hail Mary, I think, this last event. This is bring in Wonderful, tell him to go do essentially whatever the hell he wants at times. Like, let him go take peeks with his AWP if he wants to take an AWP. Let him rifle in the pack, rifle as a lurker. Try to figure out what the hell you're doing with Immer, with JL, and with Alexi B. I mean, Bit is going to be your star, but I still think the main issue of what you're trying to solve is how do you use these pieces you've brought in. And if Blade and Alexi B can't get it right this event, I think the murmurs of Alexi B finding a new team become a little louder. It starts becoming a conversation, realistically.
I think one of the positives here for Vitality and Na'Vi alike, though, is that, one, they have, new pieces coming into their roster, so they become a little bit harder to sort of read in that sense, especially Na'Vi, because I think they'll structure around Wonderful more than they would have to for Simple, for example. I don't think Simple wants tons and tons of resources all the time because he's maybe too concerned his team don't have enough resources themselves. So I think they will set up Wonderful to succeed, I think more so than we would see Simple in the same spots. That said, I just don't know that there's just not enough going on in this Na'Vi team, because I had really high hopes that Alexi might even be one of the first in-game leaders to kind of figure out Counter-Strike 2, but that's just proven to be not the case so far.
Yeah, that was a really big talking point, and so far it hasn't manifested. so far.
Mhm.
Again, as I said, this event, big Hail Mary. You play well, you make the final. This roster continues to stick together, and we see what happens. If this goes as disastrously as a lot of events have gone for them, yeah, blow it up. Make some changes. I'm not sure how many or what exact changes you can make. You're going to have to try something else, because this mishmash just seemed doomed to fail from the beginning.
I think as context as well, just before we move away from favorites, this is an event that is supposed to be the end of the sort of full circuit for Blast, but all of the qualifications for it happened in Global Offensive. And even the full finals, or the full showdowns that were held for Europe and Americas, were held on Global Offensive, even though we'd seen a transition tournament-wise to CS2, and there was even a big discussion about why aren't we doing CS2? The teams that are participating in these showdowns are probably scrimming that version of Counter-Strike, not the old version anymore. So there is a bit of a fraud watch on a lot of the teams at this event, just because we haven't seen enough from them in the new game yet. Like you sort of mentioned, the only team that's kind of missing out of relevancy at the top end is maybe Mal's, maybe an ENCE if you're really stretching. A lot of these other teams qualified or made it to this tournament before all this crazy roster instability and the transition to the new game happened as well.
Yeah, a lot to think about, a lot to look out for. Let's move on to underdogs, where first off, I've picked a team who I don't think I would pick if I didn't have that conversation last Sunday. Some of you have seen it, the new show I put out, the Retake the Week show with my Swedish buddy Quacker. He talked up this move a fair bit, and a lot of his points really made sense to me. They rang true, because Alex, as an IGL, so actually, before I even get into this, I picked an IP, if that wasn't obvious. I'm sorry, but let's go into this now. They picked up Alex, and now Alex is a weird one, because firstly, we start to bring more balance into the system as we get rid of, I think, some of the excess we had of aggressive star riflers that we had. I mean, bringing in S-Tag already was a one step towards that for Brolan. Now bringing in Alex for Hampus kind of doubles up on the balancing act. Because firstly, Hampus had, clearly according to those interviews, issues with his leadership, being respected, things like that. There was something going on in the team where he didn't really have control of the side. It wasn't working out well. Alex coming in, then also, it adds more, I want to say this. He was an IGL who took this Movistar Riders team, which had nothing except some pious on CT side, to real placements by turning Mopos into one of the most effective entry fraggers in Tier 1. As in pure opening numbers on T side, he was ridiculous. 30-something+% attempts, 60+% success rates, and he's not a player who does it instinctively, he's not a player who's done it no matter what. He's done it under Alex in set circumstances. This man has built rosters based on a one point of attack, that entry fragger. You're telling me he now gets to do that with config? And with way better players all across the board, everywhere else. Once he's in post-plants, he no longer has to rely on players who are iffy at best. He now has players like Headtrick, he has players like Rez, and he also has Esatag, who is just a smart, capable, solid, stable pair of hands to rely on. So all in all, I think Alex has inherited a better roster, way better roster than he's ever played with. He's got the right kinds of pieces to implement the system and the style he enjoyed playing. And all in all, his NIP roster still has enough firepower, even though they've cut firepower to make space for him, to challenge anyone in Tier 1, especially considering how unstable everyone in Tier 1 has been. So, to wrap it up, it's an underdog pick, it's a risky pick, but I'm putting my weight behind them. I think NIP actually got a legit chance with this new roster.
Do you think Alex has enough time to make his vision of the game work, though, with this new roster?
I don't think he's had enough time to fully implement every little aspect of his game plan. I think he's had enough time to just stabilize it. So you come in, Hampus is gone, Alex, new sheriff, big dude, imposing dude, walks in, lays down the law a little bit, says this is how it's going to be. And from that point onwards, you can build up. I'm not sure they're going to look polished, but they're certainly going to look more cohesive than they ever have.
Yeah, it's just simply, it's not as though we have like a 4+1 here with Alex. Like Esatag was a very recent move for NIP as well. He's somebody that hadn't played a whole lot this year and was kind of being thrust in a situation where unstable NIP. I feel like first off, Esatag has had a bad end of the stick. I feel like he's a much better player than some of the teams he's been on, but the NIP squad didn't. I don't know that there was a vision. You know, this is a heavily mismanaged team. It feels like I see the positives of the Alex move. I do. I don't know that I can forgive him for taking the role. I don't know if I can forgive the circumstance for killing the Movistar Riders and potentially not being a strong enough team at NIP either. Like for me, I just don't know that his vision is going to be enough to kind of revive the impact of, you know, config, res even, because you say Alex kind of slots in for Brolan, you know, you're removing firepower for in-game leading, but Brolan wasn't even firepower anymore, it felt like. Like, this guy has been a shell of his former self since the org got changed. Hell, as soon as he left Fnatic, I don't think I've seen a streak of longer than, like, 3 games where Brolan has looked like his old self. So, for me, I completely understand the move. I don't even think it's, like, that much of a firepower difference considering the output that Brolan was getting.
In that context, yeah.
Yeah, I just simply think it's going to take too long for NIP to look good. This event is not it.
No, that's fair enough. And you're allowed to not pick them. I mean...
Yeah, I didn't,
so... we'll see how this goes. We've got a bit of a history in terms of picking winners, picking losers. I'm just going to say this. Yeah, you're right. Roland wasn't exactly firepower. But the point is, we now got a situation where there isn't 4 players literally dancing on each other's feet.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what we're aiming for. And this sort of addition by subtraction, where you're in theory removing firepower, when realistically you're just opening up more space, more roles, and more comfortability for a guy, is supposed to turn config from 1.01, and we finished in groups, to 1.6, no, 1.2, 1.15, the best versions of config. And we're actually going deep because he's had buttloads of impact, in his best days on Astralis, levels of impact. I'm not even asking for old-timey North config, or that kind of config. We're just talking the config of not too long ago, who was able to carry you out of a group stage, which for NIP is a massive departure from where they've been all year round. So, agreed, he's not probably had enough time to figure out his whole system. They have already been pugging with him, even though they weren't playing with him. They've been playing with him, prepping with him. So he's had more time than we maybe can conceptualize.
Yeah. Like publicly announced time.
Publicly announced time is not quite the same as to what he's actually had. So I'm going to remain, I think, a little too optimistic. Obviously, I'm going to watch them play. They're going to let me down. Hoo. It's happened a few times in the past with NIP rosters, but I like the pick. I like the pick. Let's go on to your underdog pick. Let's see what you've decided to go with, because it's not a pretty field.
No, I mean, the underdogs, all these teams are, well, they're underdogs for a reason, but...
You've got to write an essay for them. That's what you got to do. You've got to, in defense of my underdog pick.
I hate, first off, the roster shuffle, exciting for a while. I am tired of it now. Like, I just want teams to figure their shit out right now, because everybody seems like they're panicking ahead of this major, and so, listen... They're not a team that have roster stability either. They haven't made any changes, but the rumors are out, and it's all up in the air about how these players perform. I have faith in BlameF and Device. I've chosen Astralis as my underdog pick, and I believe that the core of Device, BlameF, Buzz is more than good enough. I still don't, Borup, I'm sorry, bro. You're not it. You're not him. It's why Astralis are probably looking elsewhere. Of course, the rumors are that Yabi and Stan will be joining Astralis at some point or another. It seems like them and Heroic seem to have struck some kind of a deal. It's fine. Heroic aren't competing with those guys because of their behavior that, we still have to figure out what the truth is of that whole situation. Stan has yet to release it. But Astralis, to me, like, I think these guys are going to be composed enough that screw all of the talks about roster moves. Stare, I might be getting cut. Borup, I might be getting cut. I don't think that's going to distract. Like, I have faith that it won't distract Borup, simply because he's been cut from many a team already, and he's still been able to be him. You know, he's still done his job. Like, he's still like a solid role player.
Not him, but despite being cut, he's managed to be him.
He's managed to be himself, but he's not him. You know, they don't want to be ourselves. We want to be them.
This is just bars right now.
Yeah, listen, I do think Stare has been underwhelming on this roster, and I still don't know the problem for that. I think it's probably that, you know, on his old teams he'd probably be the third man to move in on a pack, and now he's right there at the front being second, and you know, with Buzz, and then BlameF's, you know, fifth, fourth, and both him and Device have pulled together so many miracle rounds for Astralis that I just think they're of a class that elevates this squad even in tough times. So that's my pitch. That's my essay on Astralis. I still hate this I still don't like the way this organization does business, but hey, that's a different conversation.
Yeah, that's a whole other topic. Astralis. What annoys me the most about this whole fiasco, not just the whole Cadian getting betrayed, you know, I guess you call it Shakespearean tragedy that was heroic, it's that they haven't, even leaked to someone who's getting cut. So unless they've told the players behind the scenes, it feels like you got 3 players entering this in limbo. Now, we can all reasonably predict that Buzz stays, because Buzz has been consistent. Buzz has been the one they've talked about the most, like, being friends with and liking, and like, oh, yeah. The Device must love it, like, looking down the line and seeing, like, kind of weird, distorted version of himself. That must be funny. But all in all, I think this roster is going to suffer from BlameF and Device not being strong enough to just lift them through. And also, I just don't think their way of playing gets you any consistent result. You know what I mean? Like, not just that I don't think they can carry hard enough. It's just if you're dependent on a 2-man carry job, it's just not going to work sometimes. So I'd hate picking them. I don't think it's going to work. Talk about the future quickly, though. I think these are horrible signings. I don't think this makes any sense. Like, talent-wise, great signings. Fit-wise, nonsense. Like, pretty ridiculous. You're going to have to ask Stown and Yabby to do completely new roles, pretty much. Somehow fit it in, while still having BlameF call. Oh, God, I don't think this is going to be a pretty... This is not going to be a very...
It has the makings of super team, provided we have evidence to show that role swaps for these guys don't matter. You know, like, it took a long time for Yabby to look like the Yabby we know now on Heroic. And there was a lot of talks about, like, is he a fraud? Why did they pick this guy up?
It wasn't even much of a role swap for him. It just took him a while to integrate. Like, I remember watching his Copenhagen Flames games, watching him on Heroic. It's like, some of these like maps are a bit different on one side, but for the most part, he still like gets to be an extremity playmaker, do a lot of the rotation stuff he wants to do. Why is he not performing? And if he now has to go into a new team, a new environment, he's got to embed himself again and figure out a new role. That's going to be a disaster. So, hopefully for them it goes terribly. I did say to you in a message, like, if somehow there's now a buyout situation, if Falcons can come in and outbid that buyout and steal them, that would be hilarious, and I'm down for it. Like, not that I particularly want Falcons to just buy a great team. I firstly don't think that them signing those two particularly effective. I just think it'd be hilarious if Astralis got screwed over in a very Astralis way.
Do you think if that happened, you know, this is a completely hypothetical tangent, if this happened, do you think that they would go, oh, well, hey, shush, Tessus, do you want to come over? Like, because I think that, I mean, I think it's been said by other analysts in the space that actually could have been a better fit.
That
like taking those two, yeah, it probably is a better fit.
That is the better move. So if they do that, then we won't have screwed over Astralis. They'll have actually gotten better.
Yeah, you physically killed every single one of these players off the Heroic roster instead.
You destroy Heroic, somehow make Astralis better despite not giving them what they want. Oh god, that'd be a nightmare.
Yeah, it
That
will
would
be
be
like
a
Astralis or some
nightmare.
kind of future readers of the scene. Like, how do we kill our rivals within the Danish scene? You know, we'll plant the seed, the team will implode, and we'll grab the players we actually wanted all along.
Yeah,
It's all
secretly,
feeding into the master plan.
one of these players is a Terminator sent back in time from Astralis in the future who've never won an event again. And we're like, crap, we need something. We need something crazy. Let's send back this fake player. Let's give him a weird name no one can really say. Shush. And let's just slot him into the scene and he will worm his way around, making rosters look good, but then slowly destroying them from within so we can dominate CS2. That could be their crazy idea. Obviously, in this fantasy land, all of this has to now happen, which it won't, because CS2 is never that... Like, the Counter-Strike scene is never that fun. It's never quite that fun. Like, it's amusing to find out some of the details behind people like Nicola Nyholm, like what they've gone and, like, crowbarred through the scene, like, to try and make roster moves happen. But it's never quite this fun. So, this will probably just happen as is. The rumors will probably end up being... And we'll probably get another 6 months to a year of mediocre Astralis.
Yeah, I think the cool thing for Heroic is, one, you know, after all that fiasco, suddenly Cadian is playing with them again, which is funny. But yeah, I don't know that I've trust that that's going to matter. Like, it might be like a last hurrah, nice little exit for Cadian at this event. You know, that's the other candidates in the underdog bracket. You know, we don't have a fifth. We don't even have a fourth on Heroic, but we don't have a fifth on Cloud9 even, because Shiro decided, yeah, you know what, Ulp sucks, team sucks, I'm out, and now Boomich is in, and there's no Warper, so yeah, I hated all the underdog picks basically.
They are all pretty dreadful. The one thing I would have liked is, I guess I would have talked about Heroic just to talk about Zyphon. Like, cool, finally seeing Zyphon at other tier 1 events. It's helping Copenhagen Flames be relevant. But he's in the worst possible scenario. I mean, sure, he'll probably get pretty favourable spots, and the team probably will play a half-decent brand of Counter-Strike, so maybe he'll be able to show out, but it's a temporary position on a roster that's just been gutted, with a Cadian who's looking towards, well, probably a liquid future, and the easy RMR. So I think, yeah, it'll be fun to watch them just to see how he performs. He was I thought he was a better aimer than a lot of the time Yabby was on that Flames roster. Sure, Yabby was a better playmaker. Zyphon had the simpler roles. He was straight up anchor. He did do anything in like mid rounds on T side. It was take Hooksy with you, just walk out somewhere, which wasn't the most high IQ move. Zyphon, you're pretty good at just banging people's heads off. Come with me, do it. And he would, because he's actually pretty good.
Demonstrate for me, please. For the class as well.
Yeah. How do I shoot heads, please? Me being Hooksy, the IGL, and complete non-fragger. Oh, that's how you do it. You put it on their head, then. I've been doing it wrong this entire time. Thank you, Zyphon, again, for showing me.
I do have to say, though, since they've signed Dupree, I had to double-check this very quickly, because I'm pretty sure every game I've watched Dupree play with this Heroic roster, like, he's done really well. Like,
he's crazy numbers.
Yeah, he's like the only one that seems to be to have like this star power about him. You know, as a veteran of the scene, one of the most winningest players in Counter-Strike Global Offensive, now making this. I mean, it felt like a kind of desperate. Oh, hey, all this roster instability is happening. By the way, we signed Dupree. Yes, we have a great new star, and he's actually doing it. God bless him. So. I mean, I've got massive respect for Dupree for suddenly just like stepping up in that.
As a 30-year-old rejected from multiple teams, who now gets to just step in on Heroic and put up perhaps his most statistically impressive 17-map streak since like 2015. I've never seen Dupree average this kind of number. And the fact that he's just come in as a borderline stand-in and just gone, guess now I'll frag, is pretty insane. So fair enough to Dupree. Hopefully he keeps it up. If he does, Heroic will have been the missed opportunity of this entire.
Yeah, they're definitely a weird sleeper pick at this event for sure.
Massive sleeper pick. Hey, we'll see what the people vote for. I'll put out the polls hopefully today or tomorrow, around the same time as the video. So we'll see what the people think. Heroic is an interesting one because Dupree is giving you 0.8 kills per round, 1.48 impact, whatever the hell he's averaging over these maps. Yeah, you got a realistic chance. You don't even need that much out of everyone else. That's crazy good. for an entry dragger. So it remains to be seen. Is there anyone we haven't really talked about in this group? I mean, we briefly touched on Cloud9 just having nothing going on.
No AWP, no real choice of in-game leader. Apparently Hobbit is still kind of mainly calling.
Yeah,
so
they just signed Boomich. So Boomich is, of course, here to lend his AWP prowess to the roster. Oh, God.
I mean, it was either him or Groove, so...
True. He's being asked to fill in a superstar role. We know he's already lived kind of a superstar like lifestyle with Lions and Porn Stars. Like, he could perhaps just bring the lifestyle to the role rather than the other way around, you know? Instead of the role bringing the lifestyle, he does the other side of it. So it could be a manifestation of what he wanted to be, you know? Instead of dress for the job you want, it was act for the job you want. He wanted to be the superstar. He wanted to be the big dog. And so he had to fuck everything up first and get his opportunity.
You've really spun my perspective on that, yeah. No. I'm convinced.
It's very convincing, I know. But no, there's not much to be hopeful about with Cloud. We know the players are there. It's just, we said it when the Nafany move happened. If the system doesn't change, the wrong guy might have been the scapegoat.
Yeah.
And the system pretty much hasn't changed, and the team's got a lot worse. So we're approaching Nafany apology territory. We're approaching it. I think no one's accepted that they have to do it yet. But we might be getting there real soon.
Apologies have already been issued, I'm pretty sure, so...
Oh no, I've not seen anything too public.
I mean, Maui had that letter, which was, you know, part irony, part true. Like I've spoken to him since about it. It was true, but it was also, you know, the whole satire of it is that he doesn't have to issue an apology. You know, that's the whole satire of it. But what he said in the letter, you know, like, I can tell it wasn't actually his fault. That's all true. You know, it's just done in such an overly dramatic way, of course, for the content.
Yeah, can't wait to see what happens with Bet Boom. They did win a random online cup, just in the background, one of the CCT series, which is cool. But this is kind of what you're relegated to as a tier 2 team, just endlessly grinding, trying to win stuff that no one's going to notice. Until hopefully you get lucky at a qualifier. And
until the franchise leagues are dispersed of in what, next year? Like end of 2024, is it? So
yeah, and we'll see whatever the hell Valve comes up with to replace them.
Yeah.
If anything. So we might just return to the weird open circuit of 2015-16, where there's a bunch of events being run. Most teams who are already good getting invites, and then everyone else fighting to death in open. So we'll see how it goes. I think the majors are going to get so much more important. With the end of franchising for teams, it's going to be a big deal. Majors. But alright. Any last points on that? Because my voice somehow has just gone in.
No, I was about to tangent again, and we can do that another time.
Alright, well, my voice failing me because I've had a little cold this entire time, and it's just, in one shot, just my throat is gone. We'll wrap it up. Yeah, polls will be out. Let me know your thoughts on favourites, underdogs. Hopefully this event is better than it looks on paper. Yeah. Not
Hopefully
fun
I
for
get
all of
some
these rosters.
points as well. You know, I'd like something from this.
Well, if we just have a quick score update, the viewers are still on 30. They've been stuck there for a couple of events now. No, just last event. They did win an event. I'm on 26, so the gap could just close up right here if the viewers make some mistakes. I'm sure they'll vote for FaZe those favourites. There's no chance. And you're back on 22 points, which is not as far back as your doom and gloom attitude may be implicated, but it is tough to make those points back, I think. Really difficult. So we'll see how it goes. End of the season, we'll make those charitable donations, depending on who actually ends up losing. I've got a weird feeling we're both going to lose, though. These viewers are just... It's too easy for them.
Wait, is that how that works? We both.
Yeah, of course. If we don't
fair enough. Yeah.
If I somehow overtake the viewers, I'll ask them for donations. They won't give them. We'll see.
It's like, come on, pay up.
You guys signed up for this. You voted in the polls.
Yeah.
Should have read the fine print. Okay. Thank you to Yumi for joining me as always. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.